I
Okay.
do work for Channel 2579, all that. So
Gotcha,
I know all
okay.
about all this stuff.
Very cool. All right, thank you. All right, where am I just went live. 1 minute. Come on.
Would everybody be willing to be seated, and most importantly, to just quiet down a little bit? I would appreciate that immensely. On behalf of the members of the Westchester Community Church, United Church of Christ, we welcome you to this forum for the officials for the Village of Westchester. The United Church of Christ is steeped in the tradition of helping form what we know as democracy here in the United States. Congregationalists were part of the creation of the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. We are in the forefront of the right to allow people to vote. To this end, we're glad to be the host site, but we do not endorse any individual or party at any time. Things you may want to know. Coffee and donut holes are in the back until they run out on that side. Note cards and pens are there for you to pose questions through the moderator to all candidates. We're going to have people in the back that will be occasionally walking down the side with a basket. If you have a question, just simply raise your hand. They're not going to answer it here. They're going to hand it, like we got a person there raising her hand right now, and you will give her those note cards, okay? Return the pens. There are two sections to this. The first for the village president position, and then the second part for the trustees, and later to invite, if they choose the clerks. That was a very last second thing, and it's very important to know that that is not fair to just throw them right in front. This is a later addition. Most important, bathrooms are in the back on those sides. Please mute your phones or turn them off. No recording is allowed. That is an agreement from every single candidate that no portion may be used in any way, shape, or form. The event is being live streamed. You can see it, and it will be recorded. The site is westchester23.com. I'll say that again, westchester23.com. That will be held up all the way through the election and then taken down. We want to thank the following. First, the Westchester Social and Service Committee for posing the idea of the forum, locking in the location and the date. Second, members of our Westchester Community Church who have agreed to help with the food, the note cards, timers for the forum, and it's just all around been wonderful. Third, this man right in front of me, Jason Bauman of JB Squared. He has taken a lot of time to set this up and make sure that all of you can participate here and then review it later at your leisure. Lastly, Gene Clotter, who's the one on the side, and Michael Romaine, who have helped with the parameters of the event, and I really appreciate all of their input. Most importantly, I want to thank all the candidates running for the various offices. They're taking the time to put themselves out into the public eye and to public scrutiny. I ask right now that you give them all a round of applause for their being willing to do this. Lastly, I want to introduce to you the moderator for this event, Michael Romaine. Michael is an independent journalist who has worked in media and communications for over a decade, covered dozens of local elections. He's the founding publisher and editor of the Village Free Press, a local news source for Proviso Township that he created. He's the former editor of the Austin Weekly News, a former education reporter for Wednesday Journal, staff reporter for the Forest Park Review, former director of diversity, equity, and inclusion for Growing Community Media. Try to say that 5 times. He currently publishes an online newsletter at michaelromaine.substacks.com. I will put this information out later. Has launched an online voter guide called ProvisoVotes2023.com, which includes important information on candidates and issues in 9 suburban races, including here in Westchester. He's working on 2 articles that will be published later this year in Crane's Chicago Business. Michael, everything's now in your hands. Audience, please do not clap in between, interrupt any candidate at any time. This is not a debate. It's a forum. Show respect for the process. And at the end, of course, applaud. And we will leave time after this event that you can spend as much time as you want meeting with them here, outside, whatever. The bottom line is we just are so glad that you have shown interest in this. So without further ado.
Thanks, Pastor Joe. And everybody, welcome. Before starting, I want to remind everybody that there's another forum scheduled to start immediately after this one. That one, which is called the Proviso Township Nonpartisan Candidate Forum, will be at Cement Masons Union Meeting Hall, 739 South 25th Avenue in Bellwood from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. And all candidates who are certified to be on the ballot for the April 4th election in any race were invited to participate. So any candidate in Proviso. This is being hosted by the Proviso Township Candidate Forum, the Proviso Township Democratic and Republican committee persons. Now to the ground rules. So every candidate representative make an opening statement. That representative, however, cannot participate in the question and answer session. Time will be kept, and an audience member will hold up a green sign for 15 seconds remaining. Where's the audience? There she is. To your right.
Side, so you can see them from both sides.
Perfect. And a red sign signaling candidates to stop. So candidates will be given 2 minutes for these statements. I'm sorry, skipped it. When allotted time has expired, candidates will be allowed to finish a sentence before I politely interrupt. Since there are 9 candidates from 3 different slates, a representative from each slate will draw for the order in which candidates will be giving opening statements. I believe that's for the trustee form.
Yeah, and I think we'll go ahead and let the 9 do whatever order they want, but if they want to answer as a group for each question, that's fine. That's their choice to do that.
Gotcha. Let's see. There are prepared questions that will be asked of all candidates. Questions have also been collected during the forum from the audience, reviewed and submitted to me. Candidates will have 1 minute to respond to questions asked by me. I may use a grid to ask questions of a subset of candidates in order to ask as many questions as possible. However, candidates may use their time to answer a question that was not previously asked of them. Following time allotted for questions, candidates will have 2 minutes to make a closing statement. The order will be the reverse of the order for the opening statements. Campaign literature may be handed out at the end of the forum. Please don't distribute to attendees before the forum. This event will be live streamed and recorded to westchester23.com, as Pastor Joe mentioned. All participants in tonight's forum have agreed that copyright ownership of the tapes, transcripts, and/or website reside with Jason Bauman and Pastor Mills. The candidates have agreed that they, their organizations, their campaign, and their supporters will not use the forum, portions of the forum, or any audio clips, video clips, or transcripts for political advertising or other purposes. Okay, sorry, that was so long. So this is the order. Lowell Seda.
Lowell's not here.
Lowell is not here.
Is Lowell back here? Okay, then we move to
Lowell is
number
not
2.
here. Dave Galandit.
No, actually, I believe Kevin was next in there.
Oh, Kevin. Okay, I'm sorry. Dave's name is on top of Kevin. Kevin McDermott.
Are we live? There we go.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Michael. Well, good morning, everyone. As you just heard, I'm Kevin McDermott. I am running for village president here. I want to thank you all for coming out on Saturday morning. Really, it's great to see this kind of turnout because it means you all care about what's happening in this village. And I want to thank Pastor Mills and his whole team for pulling this together as well. So I am a 20-year resident of Westchester. I love living here. I moved here with my wife. We built a second floor on the house. And the plan was to stay here as long as we could stay. But things have been changing. I'm sure you know that. You wouldn't be here if you were completely satisfied with the way things were going in Westchester. So things have happened in the recent past that have caused some problems. Now, I love living here. I love this town. I love my neighbors. Really, it's a great place to live. But there are things that need to be addressed. Things have gotten a little off track in the last few years. And it's not going to change unless we look for a change in leadership. You know the old saying, if you keep on doing what you always did, you keep on getting what you always got. So I'm here to tell you that it is in fact time for a change. And I am willing to be a person to step up and do that change. And in order to create that kind of change, first thing we need to do is establish leadership. That's a fuzzy word, means a lot of different things to different people. But in my view, leadership is about setting the conditions, creating the environment where people want to step up and do their best. And that's what I am going to bring to the table. I'm going to focus on those elements of leadership that really count, that really bring everyone together, not just the village staff, not just the village board, but everyone, including all of you. So leadership is about setting an example. It's about getting out and getting people to feel enthusiastic, to want to participate, and to want to make things better. So I believe I can do that. I, in fact, will do that if you will all grant me your vote. So thank you very much, and I will pass it on to the next candidate.
Thank you, Kevin. The next card up is Dave Galandic.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Dave Galandic. I'm 65 years old, the only senior citizen in the race. My parents bought our home in 1954. I arrived in 1958. My dad was a World War II Navy veteran, serving as a lieutenant in submarines. My mom was a homemaker. My dad later worked for Sears Roebuck his whole life. I attended the 92.5 public schools, Proviso West, Triton College, and DePaul University. I graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree in business management and real estate finance. My community activities started young with my father in Kiwanis. I personally started the Senior Snow and Leaf Program. I worked as a real estate investor and a financial analyst for companies starting up with initial public offerings. Currently, I'm in real estate, and I'm acquiring properties that are in foreclosure, debt, or litigation, and resolving those issues. I also am a member of the Carpenters Union, International Brotherhood of Carpenters, Local 54. So I am both a white and a blue collar worker. I started my political career in 1983 when I got involved and I helped developers with our shopping centers on the corner of 31st and Wolf and 22nd and Wolf. I convinced the developer on 31st and Wolf to put a Dominick's in rather than a Kmart, and I thought that was better than serving the public. Thank you very much.
Ed Leza.
Good morning, everyone. I'm a little nervous, but good morning. My name is Edward S. Leza Jr. I'm a resident of Westchester. I live in Essex with my wife, Elizabeth, and my rescue dogs, Princess and Hazel. I was raised in Bellwood, where my family currently resides. I attended St. Simeon's School in Bellwood, following graduation from Nazareth Academy. I received an associate degree at Triton from Triton College. I began at the family bakery, Leza's Spumoni and Desserts, as a child, learning the business with an honest, strong work ethic at a very young age. For nearly 30 years while working as Director of Operations and Logistics at Leza's Spumoni and Desserts. I was elected in Royal Park District Commissioner in 2001. 2 years later, I ran for trustee in Bellwood. succeeding for 3 consecutive terms. I served as trustee for nearly 12 years, implementing programs and services provided by the village and addressing the city budget. If elected mayor on April 4th, I am prepared to dedicate all my time in working towards making Westchester an even more safe and prosperous village. I wish to reserve any remaining time for my opening statement for later. Thank you very much.
Tracy Jennings.
Good morning, ladies.
Just hand a different, yeah.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. What an honor to commune with you all this morning. I'm Village President candidate Tracy Jennings, a 27-year resident of Westchester. My beautiful wife of almost 30 years and I are the proud parents of 2 adult children raised right here in Westchester. Our children matriculated through the 3 Westchester public schools and graduated from Nazareth Academy. Our son earned his MBA from Texas Christian University and is a financial analyst and a realtor. Our daughter is a bar attorney and an IT manager, runs a small consulting business, and mom of our first grandchild. In a nutshell, I am a family-oriented, process-driven public servant. As an Army veteran, a graduate of Northern Illinois University, a Triton College Board trustee, a Village of Westchester Board trustee, a State of Illinois Senior Public Service Administrator, a real estate entrepreneur, and chief operator of a nonprofit or a religious organization for nearly 20 years. I value transparency, honesty, and resident-led community involvement. Collectively, I have acquired over 30 years of managerial experience in nonprofit, for-profit, government organizations, where I have implemented strategic changes through process overhaul. In other words, I'm actually known for delivering order into chaotic environments. If elected, it is my goal to return the Village of Westchester back to its rightful owners, that is you, the residents. Throughout this campaign, the Public Servant Party of Westchester has devoted 9 uninterrupted hours to directly and personally engage with residents via our conversations with the candidates. We have also leveraged social media to promote informational material that empowers our residents by increasing their understanding of local forms of government. Again, I want to return the power back to the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Daniel Maldonado.
Good morning. Thank you to Pastor Mills and thank you to Michael Romaine. I'm Daniel Maldonado, candidate for village president. Born and raised in Chicago, father of 3, Olivia, Ava, who attend our public schools here in Westchester, son Isaiah, married to wife Jacqueline Maldonado. Moved my family here 7.5 years ago. Moved my family 7.5 years ago, and we are proud residents of this town. I've always been an individual that has gotten involved in its community. During my time in Chicago for 10+ years, I've served on several nonprofit boards, including 2 years on a school board and also a national board. I believe that we can make progress in this town. My family and I are invested in this town, but we need the right leader. We need the right leader to get us through what we're in now and get us to the bright future that we can see. But we need to elect the right leaders. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Daniel, for a slight mispronunciation of your first name came out. Sorry. Greg Reibel, am I pronouncing your name correctly? Greg? Your last name?
You can pronounce it however you like, just as long as you spell it right on election day. So, again, is my time starting now, sir? So I'm Greg Reibel. I am a write-in candidate for the office of village president of the Village of Westchester. I've been a 30-year employee of the village, just under 30 years. I recently left. The write-in status is unfortunate. However, it is something that I'm asking residents to take their time, take a look at the candidates and make their decision, and hopefully look at me as one of the people they'll spend a little more time writing in. Again, I'm a 30-year employee of the village. I've worked throughout various aspects of the village, starting as a dispatcher, moving up. Eventually, I left as acting village manager. I did that role twice. I have shown that I can be a leader. I've shown and had no problems accomplishing the jobs and tasks that were assigned to me. But as I come in here, I don't really see that there's necessarily problems in town. We have some situations in which we're going to be working on in their future, but I don't see them as problems. Village is in a strong financial position today. Village has got a surplus budget, has funds that, and underspending over the last 3 years have increased our village general fund surplus. So we do have a positive outlook on things, at least in my world. However, yes, there are some questionable situations that the public has raised, and that's what I'm here to take care of and continue on with. Prior to taking this role on, we were in the middle of looking at selling the property in the village. That's a task that I will continue on in researching and looking into. There's the St. Joseph property that the public is always talking about, which will be answered and worked on and continue to work on as I did as a village manager. And ultimately, I hope that throughout these questions, you'll get the answers you need and take the time to write me in HRIBAL.
Thank you. So we have tons of questions from the audience, and I think I'll just start with audience questions so that you all can answer as many audience questions as possible. The first question is, what is your understanding of the role of village president?
The village president is really more accurately thought of as the president of the board. So the village board, all 7 of us, president, set policy and governance for the village. But the village is actually run in the day-to-day operations by the village manager. So the village board actually has only one employee, which is the village manager. And the village manager is responsible for hiring everyone else and running the day-to-day operation. So the board is really the governance body. The board sets policy for the village manager and for the village as a whole, and then the village manager carries it out.
I think the importance of the village president is to introduce new policies, not only to the board, but to the village manager that really haven't been implemented to date. And that would be to make sure that we are doing things in a productive order and not a reactive order. Making sure that we're not re-spending money that we can't afford to lose. And by this I mean, from what I've seen over the years, I think we're lacking in a little risk management perspective, both on the defensive and offensive side of the ball. And that's what I will be focusing on. On the defensive side of the ball is making sure that how we're operating is effective. Our employee contracts, and I'm not talking about union contracts, but regular employee contracts are tight, secure, and they protect the village. I also think on the offensive side of the ball, there's a lot of instances where we could have recovered money and we didn't. So that's what I will be looking into, especially in the last few projects. I will be looking into the closing files to see if we could recoup any insurance funds. Thank you.
What is the responsibility of the president? The responsibility of the president is to get the board unified, to disagree and agree on topics, but the bottom line is to have the best interest of the village of Westchester and make things correct. There should be an openness between all the departments, everyone talk together, everybody in a collaboration to work together to make Westchester a better place to live.
The role of the village president is to be the policy, be part of the policy board. The board is a policy-driven board. We are a managerial form of government. And so our number one job, or one of the top priority jobs is to get our village manager correct. And that has been a problem over the years. Bringing in people who are just simply not qualified to do that job. So that is one of the goals of, if elected, to make sure we get a qualified village manager through an open and competitive job search. So that would be my number one focus.
The role of a village president is governance. It's part of the governing body of the board, along with the trustees. And the village president also plays as a conduit between the village manager and the board of trustees. It's also legislative and policy making. And it's also to set, a village president sets an agenda that they can move forward in the goals of the village together collectively with the board of trustees.
Yes, the village president has a very important role in discussing matters that sometimes don't always get to the board. Sometimes communication occurs where the village president is receiving information from the outside and has to transfer that to the elected officials. Also bring that to the public. Sometimes they're the first ear on a lot of problems in town. They're probably the biggest ear on a lot of problems in town. Or concerns, I shouldn't say problems, but concerns in town. How to handle a specific issue in a certain area of town, or when people have individual problems. The president is probably the first one who gets the phone call on that. But then bringing that back to the board, creating policies to better the town is probably the most important thing to handle. Thank you.
What are your, this is regarding the village manager. There's been several questions posed about the next village manager. What do you believe are necessary qualities for a village manager to have, and how will you all handle the process of actually hiring the next manager?
Well, my understanding is that there is already a process underway, and that the current village board, first of all, lets everyone know that we do in fact now have a new interim manager, Dawn. So yes, there is a new interim manager who has just started in the last 2 weeks, I think. And there is already a process underway using a search firm to bring in candidates to fill that spot permanently. So the key elements there are going to be, number one, experience, because we've got some issues that will take that level of experience to understand, sort out. Integrity. People who take a job like this have a tremendous amount of responsibility. We have to be able to trust their judgment, who they are and what they're trying to try to do. And lastly, accountability and transparency, kind of two sides of the same coin. We have to know what they're doing, and we have to be able to hold them accountable, and they have to be able to hold themselves and their teams accountable for what's happening in the village.
I think when we're going to look for or keep the next village manager, I believe that we need to sit down with the new board and really make a job description, not only reiterating what Kevin just said, but a job description tailored for the needs of Westchester specifically. And of course, education, experience all comes into play. But I think we need to know, as a governmental body, board and president, exactly what the Westchester needs and wants. And I think a survey from the people for such an important decision should be done. Thank you.
As far as the manager's responsibilities and his, the way the manager should have an open door policy with the village, his credentials. He should know about economic development. He should know how to run, so to speak, a family. Just like a mother and father runs their kids, he's got to run the kids of the village. Sorry. He has to have a decent, he has to have a college education, know about running businesses, economic development in his hand. He has to have an open mind. We have to agree to disagree. The bottom line is we have to agree to disagree to do the right thing to make Westchester a better place to live. And also he has to be at everyone's beck and call when they need them to talk about things and hash it out correctly and have an open mind.
Experience is one of the keys to when we're searching for a village manager. And one of the things that I would encourage the board, if elected, is to look at that person's experience as far as do they have experience with public works? Do they have experience with community and development? Do they have experience in actually getting grants? Do they have experience in dealing with TIFs? So these are areas that I would concentrate on and make sure that they have that background. And then go through this open and competitive job search. No more nudging, no more buddies, no more I know this person. That has gone on in our village for way too long. And that's why we find ourselves in these situations. So you open it up, bring in real candidates, and Westchester is going to be a wonderful place to stay.
I'd like to see a village manager with a proven track record in other municipalities, obviously with the experience in this industry and the longevity, how long that individual has been in the industry in other municipalities, not seeing too many gaps on their resume. Obviously the leadership qualities, great communication skills, people's person, and integrity. I think that's important. And transparency, the understanding of how transparent we need to run our government here in town.
The village manager position generally as a description is the same in almost every community. If you were to look online and spend the time to do that, it was something I did in years past to assist people in doing the job search. But one thing that does need to be done is determine the history of that individual, finding out and speaking to their board at the current location they work at, if they are in municipal government. If they're working another job and transitioning into a village manager role, finding out what their history was and what they brought to the table there, how they've been able to affect the community or business they were working for, but not just one phone call, 3, 4, 5 phone calls. Find out exactly in great detail what they've done and how they can improve our community.
There are questions about Enterprise Drive and the property that the village purchased not long ago. That was supposed to be a new village hall. That plan has since stalled. What are your plans for Enterprise Drive?
That's a tough one. I think Enterprise Drive has to be completely rethought. The buildings, as you may know, the buildings are not really even suitable for the purpose they're intended. Public Works building can't support the weight of the trucks. These are inappropriate buildings, and the location is about as far away from the center of the town as you can get. It's not even a through street. So I think we need to completely rethink this. And I don't know, I can't tell you offhand what the alternatives can be, but there are some. Could we sell the buildings? Could we rent them out? But my sense is that those buildings are not going to work. We are going to have to find some alternative to that.
Well, there's only 2 solutions to that problem. Either we keep it or we sell the building. If we keep the building, then it'll be the village hall. There's certain determining factors that will have to be looked at before that decision is made, and how long it'll take to make it and how much it'll cost. And one of them will be our debt service carry. I don't know right now how much money it's costing us residents a month to hold that building. The other thing is to sell it, and I don't mean fire sale it. If I was to sell this, depending on the debt service carry and the usage, as a village, I would try to get a good renter. I would use a financial profile like a real estate trust and try to find a good renter, a medical service like Children Laurie's Hospital, that we could then sell it to the real estate trust at a profit and not sell it as a loss. Thank you.
Yes, as far as this Enterprise Drive, first of all, it's in a bad location. It's near residents. I don't think residents want to hear a truck backing up in the middle of the night filling up with salt, beep, beep, beep. And also the pavement has to be redone because it's all asphalt. There's a lot of work that has to be done. I think once the village becomes sustainable, that property should be sold as soon as possible because it's not a good fix for the village of Westchester. And further down the road, once we have the availability and the funds, we should go down that road. At this immediate time, I think we should just sell it and be done with it.
Enterprise Drive is not suitable for our new village hall. It was no plan. When I came onto the board, I actually asked for a plan, and there was actually no written plan. That's very concerning to me as a resident. Right now, we have projections that it was originally going to cost $2 million to get it up and running. That number now is about $13 million. That's a 550% increase over what they said it would be in the first place. At some point in time, you have to cut your losses. All of us are homeowners. You have to learn how to cut your losses, and that's what we have to do. We don't have to fire sell it. I work for the state of Illinois. They're always looking for buildings. But we need to get out of that and rethink Roosevelt and rethink our village hall where it currently sits. Thank you.
All right, I think that needs to be rethought. I think that putting the village hall there is not central to all our residents. I think our village hall needs to be centralized to all the residents. I think the idea of moving the police station there as well, I think that was well thought out. I think moving it from Roosevelt Road, where the folks in that community are butting up to Bellwood, and you have to worry whether or not the response time, if we move the police station over here by the towers, the response time to respond to those folks or those calls over there, if that's gonna play a role. So I think it needs to be thought out, whether what we do with it. I think that's a decision that we can collectively, as a board, discuss and with the village manager, whoever he or she may be.
I do agree. It does need to be looked at and reviewed. We have to determine the cost value basis based on what offer is being made on the property at the village hall. That village hall, and that is how we got to the position we're at, was a deal that did not initially work the first time around. Unfortunately, the developer did pull from the deal, and a new development deal is being discussed. But looking at all those numbers as to what the offer is going to be, what the cost ratio is going to play for getting the job done and having it rebuilt, if it were to be rebuilt, has to all be laid out on the table. Bringing engineers in, bringing architects in have been discussed, but not implemented to this time. And those are the types of things that we would do to get the financial figures before making any decisions.
The next question, I'll try to make these sort of consistent when it comes to themes. So I'll ask one more question about economic development, and then we'll move on to another topic. But I did get a reminder from the audience. Is it okay if we switch the order? Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate that. So we'll switch the order from left to right this time. And this question is about St. Joseph High School and what you all plan to do with it if elected.
Unfortunately, the village can only do zoning changes. The village can't do anything or can't sell it. It's owned by the Christian Brothers. The only option the village has in any regards to the actual sale is to take eminent domain of the property, but it would be at the cost of the village. So St. Joe's has been for sale for 17 years. There have been 2 offers and 2 developers that have actually come to the board level, village board level. And unfortunately, neither of those were acceptable to the town's people as well as the board. And we're still at the drawing board of that. What I think continued communication with St. Joe's is definitely necessary to bring options to the table. Let them know what we've been looking for. They have been searching for such. However, to this point, nobody has offered an appropriate financial figure for that. So once we would continue to keep working with them, would be the key feature.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously, we do not own it. For those that don't know, we don't. It's owned by the Christian Brothers. So we're very limited as to what we can do with the property. I think it's bringing developers to the table, identifying those folks, and bringing them to the table and see what interest that they may have, or to try to attract interest in them. Yeah, it's one of those things where we have very little control, but I think with identifying developers, maybe we can get somebody in there.
Well, the first thing that we won't do is put industrial buildings on that property. We do not own the land, but I would like to, I think if the board, if it's still for sale, the board should maybe take a look at it and see if it is possible for us to purchase that land. If the village owned the land, then we would actually have more control of what can actually go there. Right now, we're at the mercies of any developer that throws something out there, and that's what not having a strategic plan, but that's another topic. But that's one of the problems when you don't have anything laid out for the village as a whole for our future. We're at the beck and call of developers, and so. But making sure that we're able to maybe even purchase that land would be something I would ask the residents and the board to look into.
As far as St. Joe's, it should be, I apologize. We need to find a developer that's suitable for the town, that makes Westchester a safe environment. We all know that's not owned by us, it's owned by the Christian Brothers. And the one caveat that's gonna be in there is that the teachers have to get their pensions paid off before the sale of property is done. So we have to just make sure it's suitable for, like Tracy said, no industrial, we can't be shoving things down residents' throat that don't belong. And it's gotta be a common good for everybody to use. So, pardon me, it should be a good fit for Westchester. And again, once again, it's not owned by the village of Westchester, it's owned by the Christian Brothers. And we'll, through our collaboration with the new village manager and the new board, hope to bring something there that everybody could use.
Okay, St. Joseph's. The last I heard that the property is in a forbearance. One bank held it in forbearance, and the second bank bought that paperwork, which is a bank that liquidates. So I'm not sure how long that there'll be a type of contractual leverage with the Christian Brothers, but I hope it's a while. Also, I'm concerned about housing. You could have some housing there, but not the high-density housing that a real estate developer would need to make a profit on their property. And this is the reason why. Because of the amount of houses that would be needed, our off-site expense of the village to support that would be rather expensive, well over $2 million. And I don't know where we're gonna get the money to fund that. And the TIF will not fund that enough money, especially we've confined ourselves by finishing roads on Mayfair and going to Canterbury,
That's
which
okay.
might have to
That's
be
fine.
dug up.
My bad, Clyde? Okay. Well, I'm not a developer, so I can't answer the question about what is the best use of that property. But there are a couple of parameters we want to follow. You heard loud and clear that no one here supports an industrial park, surely. But there's some other things we want to make sure we are followed here. So we don't want to increase the tax burden on the citizens. We don't want to overtax the schools. And we want to create something that's going to be useful for everyone. I don't know what that is. That's why developers exist, because they will come into us with ideas. So I think in our case, what I will do if I'm elected village president, is make sure that whatever development proposals come in are made open to everyone in the village. I propose a series of town hall meetings or some sort of meetings where we can explain what these development proposals look like and get feedback from all of you about what is it that's really going to work. So that's how I will approach the problem. I will also may open a dialogue with the Christian Brothers.
We got 3 questions about senior citizens, and they vary, but I'm going to try to put as many of them to you as possible, and maybe perhaps you can answer them in a group. There are multiple people who are asking, will there be a senior center for Westchester? If so, when? And the larger question is, what are you going to do for seniors in Westchester going forward? So I'm going to package those questions from left to right.
So just as we have the Grow Committee, which does a phenomenal job in bringing ideas and thoughts to us, we also have the Citizens Advisory Board.
That's yours, sorry. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, that was his. Sorry.
Okay, no problem.
Michael.
So just as we have a Grow Committee, which is a green initiative committee for the village, who goes out, brings stuff to the board, we also have a Citizens Advisory Board. And they're newer, but having seen with the Grow Committee and their enthusiasm, I'm hoping the Citizens Advisory Board will be very similar in bringing programs for seniors to the village, and hoping that all of those meetings that they're planning on having with senior groups, bringing up interest in what are the needs of the seniors. Do they need to have more forums regarding property taxes? Do they need more transportation services? Those types of things could be identified through our Citizens Advisory Board, as well as those who come to our board meetings and talk and explain that to the board directly.
So we have several committees in our government that have been vacant for quite some time. But we don't have any members that no meetings go on because there aren't enough members on these committees. So I think it's establishing that senior advisory board, and also keeping our current services with the town, the ongoing, but also partnering with local transportation services and local health partners as well to bring the resources to our town. For example, I know that there was just recently a tax workshop on property tax workshop outside of Westchester. So I'm thinking if we need to do more of that, we need to bring services like that into our town here, just where we're sitting here today, so we can make it more convenient for our seniors as opposed to expecting them to try to find transportation out of town or drive themselves.
I've talked to literally hundreds of seniors in Westchester, and so building a separate senior center is not a very high priority for them. I think we've put things on people for political reasons and the quality of life. I had an event recently where a young man said, "Thank you that you realize that it's not just seniors in our town. Our seniors are vibrant. Our seniors are mobile. Our seniors are involved." And I think sometimes when we start talking about this, we might have one instance where we might have a neighbor, we take that and we paint a broad brush. We have services that are already provided by the township. Westchester does not need to duplicate that. Our taxes are already paying for that. So I just believe that working together with a quality of life for all of our residents is the best approach.
As far as the programs for the senior goes, we need like a code enforcement to help them out. First of all, you have to assess the situation. You have senior citizens, you have widows and widowers in houses that can't afford or don't have the wherewithal to fix up their house. We can implement programs in a broad spectrum that will take care of everybody and hire contractors, which will also help the seniors because you're going to have a bunch of people that are going to need help, and a contractor come in for a decent price and fix it. I also want to implement plans for the seniors, for roof programs to help their roof, for window programs for their windows. I mean, I too have been out talking to many seniors, and there's a few seniors that are complaining that, they go to the neighbors and like, can I help you with something? And they're like, no, they have a mental issue. Well, you have to assess the situation so they can be taken care of, and it'll be fine. We'll help them out very well. Thank you.
senior issue is real important to me because I am one, an end-stage baby boomer. And actually, this is one of the programs that I was going to implement. It's called Senior Safe. And it involves legal assistance, safety, health issues, property and property taxes. And I already have some volunteers, professionals in this industry that would meet once a month where seniors could come in and get help. Specifically on the safety issues, I'd like to see grab bars accessible for them. I would like to see motion sensor lights so they don't need to switch. If you need to go in the bathroom at night or anything, you don't have to look for a light, it goes on. And it goes on and on from there. But it is a good program, it will be done. And I plan on utilizing our committees, as some of the gentlemen said have been dormant. I will give them homework. They will have discussions every month and we'll make a plan. Thank you.
Well, first, I want to thank my colleague, Mr. Galandic, here for thinking I'm a young man. Thank you. But in fact, I'm a senior, like Dave. So I care what happens to people like me and like Dave and the rest of you. Here, I look around the crowd and I see there are a lot of people like us. But what specifically we do is a very different question from doing something. And I think Tracy mentioned that the township already provides a lot of services. Now, there are gaps. The township doesn't do everything. There are things that need to be done. So the first thing we need to do is figure out, well, what are those gaps and how do they get filled? And I'm in favor of some of the other suggestions that you've heard here about using the committee structure in order to gather that information and hear from all of you. You guys know what you want. You know what you need. I know what I need. I'm not sure it's grab bars yet, but I know what I want to see out of the senior programs. So we'll work with all of you in order to figure out where are those gaps and how do we plug them.
So we're going to transition into environmental issues and questions that people have had in the environmental space. I think a good transition is a question that I actually prepared that should hopefully address some of these other questions. So in 2021, a group of stakeholders mobilized to stop a plan to build a luxury townhome community on 15 acres of land adjacent to the roughly 80-acre Wolf Road Prairie Nature Preserve and the 43-acre Hickory Lane buffer lands, an area known worldwide for its biodiversity and soil composition. What are your thoughts on any potential economic development on that site? And just so that we can change it up a bit, I'll just take you all alphabetically so that we can, who didn't be able to speak first can. So the first one is Dave Galandic.
Okay, thank you. You're talking about Hickory Lane on 31st Street, environmental soil conditions. I don't know if a lot of you residents know this, but there are ponds in that area. They go all the way from Cermak Road to 31st. They're actually artesian underground spring-fed ponds. I used to go fishing there. There never was any algae or anything there. Consequently, there's a lot of peat bog and choppy kind of soil. So it's difficult for excavating and development. While it looks like a good location, all right, we have to protect ourselves with villages as people come in. If we're going to do it, that we have to be protected with performance bonds and other insurances in case a contractor runs into problems. And this happened on Wolf Road at the Prairie Medical Center. They couldn't complete the job because of the soil, the environmental. And we all know there's quarries north of us, and then there's rivers. So in between is good farmland and soil, and that's why that soil is difficult and to work with. Thank you.
Greg Rebel.
Yes, the most recent development there was just not at all what the village was looking for, and it was turned down by the board. And I believe environmental played a huge role in that. I wasn't necessarily privy to a lot of the internal conversations, but certainly watching from the boardroom while attending those meetings, you could tell that environmental was a big part of it. And the determination that the board made, I would stand behind. And I believe anything that would be proposed for that area would probably be turned down because of environmental concerns. The land has been for sale for over 20 years. I don't believe there's any rush to have that property sold. And it doesn't look as if the property owners are or looking to bring anything forward in the very near future anyways. But we certainly would keep an eye on making sure that that remained untouched.
Well, I am a friend of the prairie. If you haven't gotten an opportunity, check it out. And it's really, to have that in our own backyard is really a wonderful thing. I would not see a development or could not see a development going out there. I think it's going to run into the same opposition, especially knowing some of the people that were part of that fight. They're not going to give that fight up. It's near and dear to their hearts. And I don't blame them. I've driven up in there and it really is a mess. And if you start moving land and all of that, as David even said, it's some underground waterways. It's just not a good place to build. And we need to keep our prairie safe.
Ed Leslie?
Yes. As far as Hickory Lane, I know it's really contaminated land from the landfill over there next to where Range Highlands is currently at the golf course. I think what it should be done is the Hickory Lane should all be raised and not developed, but continued from the prairie. The prairie could use all that land. It could all be prairie land because let's face it, it's a great area, and it would be too much. It would be too expensive for someone to come in and develop it because it's very, very dirty underneath. So just get all that out of there, all the houses and all the stuff, so there's no more fires. We have no more problems over there, and not develop it. Just make it a prairie land. Extend the prairie land over to that Hickory Lane area.
Daniel Maldonado.
So I was a member of the Planning and Zoning Commission when that was taking place. I think it was a monster of a development. It started even bigger than how it ended. But the reality is we do need revenue. We do need revenue, but I don't know if the process took place correctly. I don't know if there was a discussion with the different environmental groups, with the road commission, of folks that really had some concerns about this development. So my approach would be to bring them all to the table. And if there is a development that were to come forward, is to take a good look at it. That way we can try to make both sides happy. But I think it's important that we try to take advantage of the potential revenue that can come from that, but with respecting the environmental groups and their opinion on everything, but also driving in revenue for the town.
It's funny, having my last name is M, I'm used to being in the middle of the pack. It's kind of unusual to be the caboose this time around. So I've been over to Hickory Lane, and if anybody of you have driven through it, it's a disaster. There are probably half a dozen abandoned houses, one of which just went up in flames just 2 days ago. So it's really a problem. It's been abandoned for a long time. I don't think development is likely there because the water is bad. This is why the houses are abandoned in the first place. So I'm not sure what kind of development could go in there that's feasible. I'm partial to the idea of an environmental stretch extending the prairie, but I will not make a final decision. There's always stuff you don't know until you get into it. So if elected, I will certainly make a careful study of what's possible there, but my gut tells me that development is probably not the answer, and maybe extending the prairie is.
Okay, I'm gonna give the remaining people who haven't been able to go first a chance. So just 2 or 3 of you, and then the rest, I'm just gonna scatter these and you'll be picked randomly where the cards lie. And these are more environmental questions. So generally, this is a general question, and I'm going to try to fit in a specific question as well. Do you support initiatives to improve the quality of our air, land, and water, reduce waste, reduce greenhouse gases, and conserve water and energy? And then, if you could also speak to your opinion on solar panels in the village. And Ed Laza, and then solar panels, and what do you feel about environmental initiatives in the village?
As far as environmental issues in the village, there is a recycling program in Westchester. I think we have to be a little bit more requirements to recycle more and fill up those containers a little bit more, because I, for one, am very known on my block to bring everybody's container in after the garbage man comes. but the recycle container is always not full. You have to fill those up more. And as far as the solar, I think it's a very, very good idea. But on one caveat, the solar, they have to figure out something about not putting it on the roof. I think it should be in the backyard, because I am with my wife as well, exclusively talked to 3 or 4 different solar companies, and the customer service was really, really bad when you had a problem with a leak in your roof. They didn't want to know about it. So I think the solar panel is a great idea, but I think it should be put in your backyard where they're not on your roof, where they're not intruding on your house. Because, I mean, I'm for 100% solar panels, but not on my roof. Because, like I said, I went time and time again, I called 3 different companies, and they were.
I'm gonna shuffle these again, just so you know that I'm not looking at it. All right. Kevin McDermott.
I'd like to think that all of us are trying to be environmentally conscious. We all live here, we all share the planet, and it's naive if we don't think that our effects on the planet have an effect on not only us, but on our neighbors. So I'm a great fan of environmental consciousness and trying to think about what it is we can do individually and collectively to help ourselves out. Personally, on the subject of solar panels, I like them. I was talking to a guy named Anton, who lives in my neighborhood, not too far away, who's got one whole side of his roof covered with panels. And by the way, speaking of seniors, Anton's probably in his late 80s. Pulled out his cell phone and was controlling the panels right there in front of him. It's cool to see. And he was a great advocate. He'd been running them now for a couple of years, and it saved him energy. I thought it looked fine on top of the roof. So I think people who are interested in solar panels, I encourage that. And actually, after talking to Anton, I'm thinking I might do it myself.
David Galandic.
Okay, environmental, solar panels. I think solar panels have not yet evolved to the level of quality that they should be. So maybe we should wait and hold and see what comes around and have the village see what would be adequate for an installation. As far as village recycling, I think maybe more programs, a couple extra dumpsters in the back. If people want to consciously save aluminum cans or different types of metals and put them in the dumpster, the recyclers are paying good money today. So I think we could have a little extra money in a fund. Thank you.
Tracy Jennings.
One of the key performance areas in the strategic plan that the Public Servant Party of Westchester has just released is dealing with our environment. And I am excited about really vetting that out. These aren't just things that we can say, let's just recycle or let's just do X. It's very complex. And so being able to get with the people in our town and talk about those issues in depth, I think is going to give us a better understanding of it for the long haul. When it comes down to solar panels, I've seen the good and I've seen the bad. I've seen homes that are being built, modern homes with that are total solar panel driven, and they love it. And then I've seen some people have a lot of trouble. So we would have to make sure we vet out those vendors if they're going to be working in Westchester.
Daniel Maldonado.
Yes, I do support. I'd like to look at across the board, our police department, fire department, our public works, how they can, with their equipment and vehicles, be more environmentally friendly. And also continue to work with the Grow Commission and partner with them and see how we can look at solar panels. I'm one that doesn't have too much information on them, so happy to learn more and partner with the Grow Commission on that and see how we can bring that further into the village.
And Greg Ribble.
I haven't bought a gallon of gasoline in 2 years. I drive an electric car. I'm very environmentally friendly. I do recycle. As it relates to solar panels, I only don't have them because I need a new roof soon, so I'm going to wait to do that. As it relates to allowing it to be done in town, the Grow Committee has had several initiatives in the village, bringing people together to find out about the benefits of solar, both how it works as well as financially, how it could impact your wallet. I've seen and talked to a number of people from town who have done this, and it's been great. As it relates to the village utilizing it, I would be 100% on board having the Grow Committee or even subcommittees of theirs bring things forward to show us how the village could save money using some of these initiatives through solar, electric vehicles, or other environmentally friendly tools.
Pastor Joe, can you just give an update on how much more total time we have left, Saki?
We're at just before 10 after 11, and I thought we would try to go about 11:35, and then allow for a couple minute break, then so that we can transition to our trustee candidates and give them appropriate commentary.
Okay, so we got about 20 more minutes, I'd say. All right. So I'm trying to get to as many of these questions as possible. There are a ton of them, and my head is spinning right now. So pardon me if I seem a little bit disoriented. The next series of questions will pertain to the image of Westchester. A lot of people, some people, I think multiple people have said, how would you all improve the image of Westchester? And then trying to double this up with a sub question. What are your thoughts on some of Westchester's biggest assets? So what are your thoughts on improving image? What are your thoughts on some of the village's biggest assets? And yes, I will start with you, Mr. Jennings, and then I'm going to randomly shuffle it up just as last time.
Westchester is beautiful, from its tree-lined streets to its wonderful prairie sanctuary. We have a lot to offer here in Westchester. Westchester, little caveat here. Do you know we don't get stopped by any trains? We can go from every part of our town and never be stopped by a train. No other town in Proviso can say that. We've actually started. I implemented a beautification program with the village. 3 islands on Surlag, Manheim, and Roosevelt. We want to turn green. We want to replace all of our Welcome to Westchester signs. We've started the process. 219 fire hydrants have been painted. All 17 of our utility boxes have been painted, making sure that our code enforcement is actually doing its job. That's how we're going to continue to, and over 100 signs have been changed out through the service requests I've actually put in. So a video will be coming out on that side.
Thank you. Ed Lesser.
As far as beautification in Westchester is a very beautiful town, as Tracy said, very tree-lined, very, very diverse. And as far as the assets of Westchester, you have, once again, like just Tracy said, no trains, but you have 294 on one side, 290 in the middle. You have an airport a little further north. It's a nice little town, nestled right there along 294. It's the town east of Oak Brook. It's the town west of the city that everybody flocks to. It's one town that I know that's going door to door that I'm realizing that people that grow up in Westchester, go to school in an area, grow up in Westchester, move back to their house, and they move out of their house, get married, and they come back to Westchester to live. So it's a town with grassroots where everybody wants to stay and not leave.
Greg Ribble.
I think the image of Westchester is just phenomenal. All of you people are here because you care about the town. All of you people came out to hear us talk and find out what we're going to do. You want to be a part of this town. Some of you have been here for decades. Some of your families have been here for decades. And I believe the image is solid and strong. There are some situations in which people say, well, there's not enough restaurants, or there's not enough, you know, we don't have necessarily all the places for those things. Some of the larger event areas, we wouldn't want that in our town because we like the quiet community feel. And I believe that all of you are here because you do want that and want to continue that. Some of you who are younger are going to come back when you're older. Some of you are just going to stay. Unfortunately, my time is up, but I think the image of Westchester is a beautiful one.
Kevin McDermott.
A friend of mine moved to Milwaukee not long ago, and he told me, hey man, this is a great place to live, but you wouldn't want to visit here. So I think Westchester, I'd like to see it be both. First of all, I love living here. As I say, I've been here 20 years. I want to stay here. And I think that the image of Westchester is one of a great place to live. But I'd also like to make it a great place to visit. Now, that's a separate subject like economic development that I won't have time to go into here. But I think we need to really think about both. The image here is already good. You know, the housing stock is great. The place is beautiful. Lots of trees, there's lots of greenery. Though, of course, we can always use more. So I would like to see us continue to improve the things that are already good, but also look at some of the areas where we can improve. Can we bring in more businesses? Can we make this a place that people want to not only live in, but want to come visit?
Daniel Maldonado.
Yes, I agree too. Westchester's a great place to live. It's beautiful. And I think the most that I've heard, and it's obvious to everyone, not much businesses here. But let's look at our strengths, right? We're geographically located in the best place. We're along close to major highways, malls. We're for the most part, a pretty safe town. Taxes low. And, but I think that I'd like to see, like, for example, the signs that Jennings mentioned, I'd like to see that pop a little bit more, redo those signs so people can actually tell that they're entering into Westchester and make it more vibrant. I'd like to see more greenery in town as well. I think that that'll lift up the beauty of our town.
And Dave Galantis.
Well, I've been here 65 years and I have a lot to say in a short period of time. So here it is. All right. Our parks, our people, our programs, our schools. This is all part of another program I was going to introduce. It's called Westchester Strong. And I wanted a website. I want the advisory committee to look at it for all the strengths that we have to offer. And everything that I enjoyed as a child and my friends that we talk about today is just fabulous, and it goes on to our baseball, soccer programs. The parks host a regional softball tournament. It's just amazing, and it'll go on from there. So I want our kids growing up to have the same childhood I had, because our friendships forged from childhood have the strongest bond. Thank you.
Lowell Sita just showed up, Pastor Joe. Is it okay if he?
Absolutely, you could, the other candidates, because he did not get to make his initial, maybe make his initial response.
If that's okay with everyone. You have 2 minutes. They'll show a green sign when you have 15 seconds and a stop sign, a red stop sign when you run out of time.
I am Lowell Martin Sita, writing candidate for Village of Westchester President. I've lived in Westchester since 1952. I graduated at the top of my class at Divine Infant Grammar School and St. Joseph High School, both in Westchester. My family has designed the Westchester Community Swimming Pool, got the North Westchester Park District merged into the Westchester Park District, got the community center built and well baby clinics held there, got street lighting improvement, saved the oldest building in Proviso Township, the 1853 Francis Bush two-room schoolhouse, saved Wolf Road Prairie, saved the Westchester Jewel Oscar, co-founded the Westchester Public Library, the Proviso Mental Health Commission, Triton College, the Westchester Historical Society, the Westchester Historical Commission, the Save the Prairie Society, the Westchester Recycling Committee, and the St. Joseph High School Alumni Association. My family has contributed much and plans to continue to contribute much to the village.
Thanks, Mr. Sita. We're going to continue into last several topics here. And I believe Daniel, you're the last person who has not gone first, so you'll start off, and again, I'll shuffle the cards randomly. And this is in regards to alternative transportation. Westchester will be hosting Tour de Proviso this year. Our village has very few bike racks and no bike lanes to support safe travel for our residents. Will it be a priority of yours to facilitate bicycle safety and security? If so, how will you proceed? Mr. Maldonado.
Yes, it would be. I'm excited about that tour de Proviso. I think it took place last, was Bellwood. But I'm excited that this year it's coming here from what I heard. And so I think it is important that with that being the case, that we do focus on the safety. And working with the Park District as a commissioner there, I think that we have a good board of commissioners that will be willing to work with the village. And whoever gets elected new there, I think they would be as well. I'm seeing how we can partner on bringing those bike racks to the parks and forming a plan of safety, a self-safety for that event.
Greg Ribble.
So the village has been actively working on preparing for that event. The village president had reached out to the Chicago Metropolitan Area on Planning to receive grant funding to potentially add bike paths to our roadways. And they're being reviewed and looked into. I don't know what the status is at this point, but it is something that the village was looking into. And I can't speak towards bike racks. I think that's something that would have to be discussed as to where the locations would be, what the cost would be, where we'd be placing them. But I do know that the village fully supports the Tour de Proviso being hosted here, and we're looking forward to a great event. The event held last year had about 500 or 600 people, I believe, as total riders. So we look forward to having them tour our town, take a look at some of our architecture as it relates to some of the older homes in town, and that'll be coming in the fall.
Tracy Jennings.
Yes, I would be in support of more bike lanes. Obviously, we have to have all that vetted out, but that is one of the things I think about Westchester is that we don't have that. And from time to time, we do have a motorist and a cyclist meet at the wrong time. And so I definitely would want to take a look at that and see how we could use that mode of transportation more in our town. But obviously, we would have to look at it, where would the bikes be stored and things of that nature. But I like riding bikes, and I would be excited about being part of an initiative such as that.
David Glendick.
Anything to do with exercise for adults and kids, I'm for. And I can't believe it. This is another program that just came up. When I was a child at school, we had the bicycle safety program, and it was so cool. The patrol boys, the police, they designed the course, stop, left, right turn, and you got that sticker on your bike. Boy, self-esteem, pride, your parents work with you, it's involvement. And today, the kids will be doing more of this rather than this. So I would be 100% for it. But we have to distinguish which kids will be on the sidewalk, maybe 12 and under, which kids will be on the street, 13 years old and up, and just follow the safety rules, because this way they will be proactive and they'll be able to protect themselves. And moreover, just while we're at it, I think we need to regulate the electric bikes. They seem to go through the stop signs, and I don't know if a lot of people know this, but
That's your time.
okay, thank you.
As far as the trails go, I'm for the trails and for the bike racks, and they could be at the front of the trails and the end of the trails. One particular crossing at 31st where the Forest Reserve connects the trail there, I think there should be an overpass there because there's been a couple fatalities there. There is grants where we can get an overpass so people don't have to stop. I mean, right now, it's a great thing when I don't know if anyone's been there, you come up to the street and there's an actuator that makes the light go on, and then you can cross the street, everybody's supposed to stop. And also for the bike lanes, that'd be great as well. And there's room along Wolf Road, not particularly in the street, but along the side in the grass would be better, so they're out of the street,
so they're safer. And I too, I'm looking forward to Tour de Proviso because I definitely do use the trails a lot, and it's good exercise to get out there, breathe in your woods. Thank you. That was not quite the random order, Mr. Mason. No, I saw you probably thought we were going down. That's okay though. Mr. McDermott.
Well, as a longtime bicycle rider myself, actually, I used to do century rides. That's 100 miles, a few decades in the rearview mirror for that. But I still like to get on my bike and go out. I have a regular route. I go out to Waterfall Glen and back. And I will say that this is not the most bike-friendly town around. So I would certainly like to see some improvements. But the idea of like putting in some random bike racks or bike lane here and there, rather, I would say let's take an organized approach to this. Let's think about what the town looks like now. What is the layout? Where might bike lanes make sense? Whatever kind of services do we need, like crossings or a flyover? So all of that can be done, but it needs to be carefully orchestrated in an organized plan. And I'd also like to follow up on what my colleague here, Mr. Wyman, said about bike safety. Yeah, I see a lot of people out riding who are not really thinking about the consequences of what they're doing. So bike safety would be a key part of any program that I would want to see put in place.
Mr. Sneeder.
I've ridden a bicycle a lot. I used to deliver newspapers, and I even delivered through the record-setting blizzard of 1967, where it took hours to complete my route, having to walk my bike through hip-deep snow at places. So I'm, aware of, the value of writing, and it comes down mostly to people policing themselves. The adults have to take responsibility for their children. Make sure that they're always wearing a helmet, and the adults too wear the helmet and bike defensively. You have to. Why are there any fatalities at all on bicycles in Westchester? When I think it's just the awareness has gone down.
That's your time. Yeah, that's your time. You get 2 minutes. Yeah. So the next question, and we'll start this question with you, Mr. Cedar.
We have another about 10 minutes. Let's go another 14 because I want to get a couple more questions.
Okay. And this question is about, there's data here. So I trust that this is, the data is accurate. It says in the latest CMAP data, Westchester is now 54.5% white, 21% Latino, 18.4% Black. How do you represent and reach out to all those stakeholders? And we'll start with you, Mr. Cedar, and then go randomly.
There are no white people in Westchester. There never has been a white person anywhere on this planet. There's a whole lot of pink people, and I am a pink person. Pink is a color, and children are supposed to know that pink is a color before they enter kindergarten. These statistics are bogus. What is the meaning of Hispanic? Does it mean Spanish heritage? If so, call it Spanish heritage. It used to be called that. Who made up this term Hispanic? A Mexican billionaire. He did it. He wanted to mess up the demographics, have every Spanish heritage person under the umbrella using a new term.
excited about being able to be a part of the diversity and equity inclusion that I would bring and that I would actually the board to help bring forward.
Ed Leslie.
As far as the makeup of the town, it's very diverse.
The internet quick, it's
Very,
back on.
very diverse. I'm sorry, very diverse. And the bottom line is every single person in this room has a beating heart, and that's all that matters. If you're qualified for the position, you want the position, go for it. I mean, it's a great makeup of town, black, white, Puerto Rican, Mexican, whatever. I mean, everybody has a beating heart, and they should be allowed to have their voice and say what they have to say. And I'm totally for diversity, and the town is great. I mean, and I agree with my colleagues here that everyone should be represented equally. If they're qualified for the job, 100%. I mean, it's an open game. Everyone should be allowed to do whatever they ask to be. Like I said, everybody has a beating heart, and everybody is judged by only one person. It's the man upstairs.
Kevin McDermott.
Oh, I think those demographic statistics are academically interesting, but at one level, they really don't make any sense at all. I mean, we're all interested in the same things. Everyone in this room, everyone in this town. We want a safe place to raise our families. We want good schools. We want the roads to be fixed, the trash to be picked up. So we all really want all the same things. So in that sense, I don't think these statistics matter. However, I played music for years, and I played in a funk jazz band that was a mixed group, white people, black musicians, and the black musicians brought a really different musical sensibility, part of their cultural heritage that I really loved. And it was really a great experience for me to be able to expand in that way. So I think all of us bring different cultural backgrounds to the table. And I think that's a thing to be celebrated and a thing to be capitalized on.
David Landon.
To me, it doesn't make a difference because from the days when my relatives, our relatives, came over from Ellis Island, migrated to Chicago, known as the melting pot of the Midwest, it's no different today. Just different people have come to settle as they have in the Midwest. Makes no difference. Thank you.
Two more questions that I'll ask, and you can get to your closing statements. There are multiple questions regarding the forensic audit and what led to it. This question asks, what controls, changes will you implement to avoid this in the future? And for this one, I'll just randomly shuffle cards. First one is Greg Ribble. That wasn't planned either.
After full review of the report when it's released, in which I stand firmly behind statements made at the board level by Acting President Nick Stecker, stating that all information will become available. When that information is available to the board, we're going to take that, dissect it, place that information to create new policies, determine what may or may not have gone wrong. It's not even to say that anything has gone wrong. An investigation is just that, and I respect the process. Until that process is done, the village is going to be business as usual, handling things moving forward. But when that report comes, an investigative review will most likely provide steps to take internally to create policy to avoid that happening in the future.
Thanks. Ed Leslie.
As far as the forensic audit, when it's out, whatever happens with it it'll be dealt with. I'm not allowed to look at it until the report is done, and in the future, after all that's done, everybody that is responsible. The whole thing is that everybody has to have their responsibilities and do things accordingly, and hopefully the audit is done, and there won't be any ill remorse of anybody. And then after it's done, everybody will work together and make Westchester a better place to live.
Daniel Maldonado.
I think that obviously that does have to, we do have to evaluate the audit. And then we also have to hire a finance director. How about that? So help us evaluate this audit. But out of that, I think obviously we can come up with new policies, but also to reprioritize how we spend our dollars in town. And make sure that our dollars are being spent in the appropriate way and the best way possible.
Lowell Sita.
We're paying for the publication of monthly newsletter. How much fiscal information has that held? Not much that I've seen. I believe that in every monthly issue of the village newsletter, there should be a list of bills received, a list of bills paid, and some abbreviated treasurer's report. The treasurer just isn't talked about much. It's an important position. The treasurer is an employee, and we should
Kevin McDermott.
Of course, I haven't seen the audit, but I do know certain things about auditing. I have an MBA in finance. I used to teach accounting at Triton College, 12 years in the banking industry. I've been the chair of the finance committee for other governmental bodies. So I do know a few things about how to address this, even without reading the audit. The first, actually, the main one is controls. It's a common practice in all accounting functions to have controls. This includes separation of duties, different people do different things, multiple review levels, so that something that comes through one level before it's approved, possibly even the third level. And what I understand, without again having read the audit, was that our problem here was a lack of proper controls. And these are standard things. I'm not making this up. This is the blocking and tackling of financial management. So controls are what need to be put in place. And if I'm elected, I will make sure that those controls happen.
Last, Dave Gallant, sorry, Dave. Sure. It was about the financial audit. And what, if I can find it again, essentially saying what would you do to prevent the village having to conduct another forensic audit? I'm sorry. And what are your thoughts on the forensic audit?
Let's set aside the audit for now. Earlier, I spoke of employee contracts and how they're written to protect us, the village. It appears to me, because of the audit and what's needed, that our contracts seem to be rather weak. They're lacking in tort liability, which is the fraud statutes, both fraud in the inducement, fraud in the execution. There's also it's called teeth to the contract. And I remember being in business law management, Professor Ryan said, you don't write a contract, build it like a foundation, you make it strong. You make it positive for Westchester. Now I'm gonna go hypothetically, because I don't know what happened, didn't happen or whatever, but say we hire somebody, could be any office, and we pay him a good salary. Maybe he wasn't qualified, maybe he was, she or whatever, and then give a raise, and then something happens. Who knows if it's adverse possession of a property, bad performance. But then I think without these proper contracts, to pay the person to leave is an insult.
And the last question, there are multiple questions that are essentially the same thing. To each candidate, if you are not elected, how will you still have input in the village moving forward in a positive focus? And these have been shuffled again randomly. Daniel Maldonado.
Well, I'll just use an example of back in 2017, when I first moved in town. I attempted to get involved on a volunteer basis to sit on any committee in town because I wanted to get involved. That got struck down, I don't know how many times. So I ran for office, I ran for trustee. Lost by 200 votes. And after that, shortly after that loss, I went to sit in, remain involved, and that's exactly what I did. They appointed me to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and I served on that commission for 4.5 years. And if I lose this election, I'm currently a sitting commissioner at the park, so I'll return to the park and do the work that I've been doing there.
Greg Ribble.
I've been involved with the community and been involved with the village for, again, close to 30 years. I would continue to do so. That's the reason I'm here. That's the reason I'm sitting here to talk to you today, is that I want to continue doing stuff within the village that promotes village unity. So what I'd like found my credentials worthy enough and continue to serve in some fashion, whether it was planning and zoning, citizens advisory, Green committee if they would have me. But basically, there's something that I want to continue doing is working in Westchester.
Yeah,
As far as if I didn't become elected, I would definitely work with the village, with collaboration. My 12 years experience in municipal office and 30 years experience as director of operations and logistics proves that I can work with anybody. I don't belong to a clique, not in this town, in any neighboring town, not in this election, and I will work with anybody.
Paul Cedar.
I began attending village board meetings in 1965. I've attended hundreds of village board meetings. Village presidents John J. Cindy and Paul Gattuso did not like my making so many suggestions for improvements of the village during the public comment periods at the village board meetings. So they banned me. At the September 11th, 2007 village board meeting, the village police chief arrested me falsely 3 times and ordered me to never again attend a village board meeting. I don't want to get shot by any Westchester police chief. Those who are able to attend, please attend.
Thank you. Kevin McDermott.
Yeah, I don't want to be shot either, so what I say. Like some of my colleagues here, I have a long history of public service. I spent 8 years on the Proviso Township High School Board of Education, District 9, so I was in the finance committee there and had other responsibilities. My wife was involved in local committees along with Pastor Mills here. So I don't know what role I would play if I'm not elected. Part of that depends on who does get elected, right? But whatever opportunities are available to me are ones I will want to take advantage of because I love living here and I'm not going anywhere. So I'll stay involved.
Dave Glenn.
I will continue to be involved like I have in the past. Political party. I was the first political person to support our District 92.5 referendum. Through the political process, I've been involved in a lot of elections, helping or seating 3 mayors and over 6 trustees. I'm proud of the programs that I personally initiated to the mayors that we have today, putting police cars in front of our schools while the children are going in and out of the school, establishing the executive committee where the library, the park, the village, and any other form of governments meet once a month so that they can discuss issues and make plans. In addition to that, I also initiated the incentive of cross-training some of our village labor employees so that they could do different jobs that we contracted on, saving 60% of the cost. And this has been going on for 15 years. Sorry. Thank you.
Tracy Jennings.
As a former real estate appraiser, I will continue to stay involved. I know what adds value to a town. I know what takes value away. I'm a stickler about beauty. So I will continue to stay involved. I'm also still elected official for Triton College, and that term doesn't end to 2027. I've been involved in this town since I moved here in '95. I go back to taking Polaroids up my street, giving them to Mayor Cindy back in 1999. I will continue to work in Westchester. I will continue to promote Westchester because it is a wonderful place to live. So whether I win this seat or not, that's not going to change my advocacy for Westchester. So you'll see.
That completes the questions. The balance of these questions will be posed to trustee candidates. I'll try to answer those that weren't answered. I'm going to try to ask those of trustee candidates that were not asked of you all, so we can get as many of those questions asked as possible. Now, this is time for closing comments. I believe the order will go in reverse. So we'll start with Mr. Ribble, and we'll come to the right.
Well, I appreciate everyone coming out. I hope you've learned a lot about me personally. Once again, I have an uphill battle being a write-in candidate, and I look for your time to take that time. Memorize my name, write myself in. Now, I've been involved with the village for 29 years, 20 of those years were in a management role. I believe that I'd be the individual that be able to get right to work, immediately step right in, understanding the background of all the projects that were planned and in the beginning stages of them prior to my departure. I'd be able to step right in and make those decisions and work with the board, unite the board to get those pieces of information they might not be aware of that I have knowledge of. Give that all to them so that they can understand and make better decisions along with me. So as time goes on, I'm hoping that you reach out to me if you have further questions. I certainly want to know if you're questioning something that occurred today. You certainly can reach out to me, find out what my feeling is on certain topics. I don't want you to make a rash decision in your judgment of village president. So please take the time to reach out to me and consider writing me in on April 4th.
All right, well, thank you all for coming out. You know, we're at a critical juncture, and we have choices to make. And obviously, there's a lot of options here. But, you know, we need a leader in this town. We need a leader that's going to get us out of where we're at, and it's going to get us from where we're at in the future. I am a leader that has done the work in town. I've been involved 10 plus years in nonprofit governance, 2 years on the school board. I was a commissioner on the planning and zoning for 4.5 years, 2 years park district commissioner. I'm grateful that we were able to secure $500,000 not too long ago, and I played a small role in that. I'm excited and happy that that took place. But we have a lot of work together, and we need to get done. And we need to have the leader that's going to make the tough decisions. They're not always going to be popular, and not everybody's going to like them, but the decisions have to be made. And I believe that I'm that leader, and I'm that candidate, and the experience and the knowledge that I bring in governance, I think will do us well here in Westchester. My family and I are here. We're vested here, and we want to stay here. And I want the best for my children. I want the best for your children, and the best for my senior parents who I moved here 3 years ago. And I want the best for the senior community here in town. So thank you, and punch number 2.
Thank you all for coming out. This is a wonderful turnout, and I'm excited that you are excited about this upcoming election. Over the last 3 elections, it's only been 10% of our voters. So I'm excited that that number is going to go up. There's an old saying, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Unfortunately, failing to adequately plan has been evident continuing practice of the village of Westchester for far too long. Therefore, if elected, a strategic plan is my top priority. In fact, the Public Servant Party of Westchester has already released a 7-point strategic plan blueprint, enabling us to immediately work towards the bright future we believe Westchester has. As I have served our village in the capacity of trustee for almost 2 full years now, I have intently studied our statutes and ordinances, and sadly, I've learned that our leaders and our residents are broadly unaware that we are not currently adhering to our own written processes. The failure to do so has resulted in an imbalance of power and mismanagement of daily processes and public funds. Significantly, through the help of residents, we uncovered a deceptive ploy to mismanage and misuse residents' funds as it pertains to work permits. This resulted in a return of $71,000 back to the village residents back in July of 2022. Moreover, I empowered our residents to use their voice and save our home values as it related to the industrial buildings proposed at St. Joe's property. If elected, rather than evade responsibility and seek power, glory, or status, under my leadership, your elected officials will uphold integrity and accountability. I have proudly served my country as a soldier. I proudly serve my state currently as a senior public service administrator, my district as a board trustee at Triton College, and I would be proud to serve my village as its next president. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. My wife tells me I'm not cut off for politics. I'm too nice, too big of a heart. So why am I here? Many neighbors asked me to run, dating back to the death of Frank Perry. Everywhere I went in town, people approached me and said, you should run for mayor. It occurred to me I should. Why? Because I care about you and this town, and I have experience and contacts to do great things for you. It's not the politics I'm chasing. It's not the pay, since village president makes $15,000 a year. It's because I know what would be best for Westchester. No other candidate has my experience. My 12 years of experience as a trustee in the town next door has prepared me to be your next mayor. No prior mayor had the experience before being elected. No current candidate has the experience today. The candidates have a lot of similar answers because it's obvious what this town needs. It's for you to decide who you believe, who you trust. As you watch their demeanors today and prior to today, consider their experience, you decide who you believe. God bless you, and I look forward to working with all of the candidates, whether elected or not.
Well, thank you, everybody, for coming today. You know, I'm a lifetime resident. I talked about different policies and things I'm going to do for the village to save us money. What we had before was a reactive form of leadership. This cost us money. I'm a proactive leader. This will save us money. I believe I have the best resume for the job. Not only knowing the lay of the land of the town, but I'm both a white and blue college educated. I plan on utilizing our committees to get a lot of things done. There's 3 Congress districts in town. Nobody talked about that. I'll be sitting with those congressmen to see how they can help us. I plan to restore the type of stability in the government that the residents were used to. Thank you very much. Vote for me, number 5 on the ballot. Thank you.
Well, I'll join my colleagues here in thanking all of you for coming out and showing the kind of interest that we need to see here in the village. I want to once again thank Pastor Mills and his entire organization for hosting this event, and Mr. Romaine for being such a great moderator. Now, everyone here has talked about their resume. Of course, I think I've got the best, but we all do. So I believe that I'm eminently qualified to be the leader that this village needs. I have the background, I have the experience, I have the education, and most importantly, I have the belief in the vision of Westchester as a better place than it is today. We've had great years in the past. We can have even better years in the future. I believe we can get there. And I believe that with the right leadership, we will get there. And that leadership will include all of you and all of your neighbors as well. So I will ask you on April 4th, please remember me, Kevin McDermott, and I ask for your vote for village president on April 4th. Thank you.
Western Springs is in Proviso Township. Hickory Lane, Westchester, students attended Lyons Township High School, just like Western Springs. I propose that Westchester, south of Roosevelt Road, attend Lyons Township High School in North Westchester, where many Proviso High School alums reside, continue to attend Proviso. Please come out and vote.
Can everybody give the candidates a round of applause? And transition.
Let me ask the 9 trustee candidates to please move forward. And if either of the clerk candidates are here at the end or want to at least make an opening, that they come forward, please.